If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it in this week. Now, as usual, I'll give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it in first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or some pictures, and then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it in this week. So let's waste no time. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Background checks and guns. Some state officials feel that a more efficient and aggressive background check system could help combat the gun problem. This central solution seems to be a new talking point in the discussion about growing gun problems. The article by Andrew Welsh Huggins of the Associated Press that also has a headline putting Columbus and Dayton in the center of a growing debate about ways to stop gun violence. This could be a starting point to a growing problem here in America. Gun violence has not only been a local issue, but an American problem. More people are incarcerated in America than any other place in the world, and a lot of that has to do with gun problems. The question is, why? Is it always the gun problems, or is it because people with the guns have the most problems? This story is still developing. Story number 2. Like any business, Lawrencetown Motors has a mountain to climb. After a lawsuit put Lawrencetown Motors back in the headlines, it remains clear that Lawrencetown Motors, like every company, will have to overcome obstacles. The company jumped back in the headlines after a Michigan-based firm filed a lawsuit claiming that the company has $2.5 million in unpaid bills in their accounting books. Now, as the story continues to develop, let's hope that Lawrencetown Motors can pull through and overcome the everyday obstacles that almost every business in America faces eventually, especially on their business journey. So this story is a big headline that made it this week. Story number 3. Tax abatements seem to help in attracting local businesses. Lawrencetown is just one of many local companies offering tax abatements to attract businesses. The Village Council plans to approve a 75% 15-year tax abatement for M&M Industries in Chattanooga, Tennessee. The container manufacturing business looks to add more than 100 jobs in the next 5 years, according to Glenn Morris, president and CEO. Youngstown also faces some obstacles when it comes to tax abatements to attract more business activity. The story is still developing as tax abatements seems to be the answers to attract more businesses. Story number 4. New water deal for Niles and Lawrencetown. The next phase in Lawrencetown's strategy to accommodate for its new business activity will be to maximize its utility strategy. Lawrencetown looks to finalize a deal with Niles to provide the majority of the village's water needs. Lawrencetown currently gets its water from multiple local sources, including Youngstown and Warren. But in this stated 20-year agreement with Niles, Lawrencetown plans to build a water tower that is capable of holding 3 million gallons per day. That's 3 million gallons of water. Lawrencetown has been in the news quite a bit with its ability to attract new businesses geared towards next generation jobs. This story is still developing. Story number 5. $5 billion set to come to the Valley from workers' compensation. After a vote via the Bureau of Workmen's Compensation to ease the continued impact of COVID-19 on Ohio businesses and workers, $5 billion is set to be released to public and private employers locally. The money will be spread out to various local organizations in need. This is another big headline that's gearing in on finances that are really needed locally. So keep an eye on story number 5, big headline. Story number 6, Altium is hiring. The return numbers are looking good for people investing in GM, General Motors. The company pulled in an estimated $4 billion in profits over the last 3 months and looks to be hiring more people at its Altium battery cell plant in Lawrencetown. At the moment, the only thing slowing down GM's progress is COVID-19. In a push to have zero carbon emissions, the car manufacturer looks to play a big part in that decision by the government, whose goal is to have zero carbon emissions by 2050. Now, this is also while adding 1,100 local jobs. This is what GM plans to do. This story is still developing. Story number 7 in the top 2 local headlines in developing news stories that made it this week. Whew. How can Ohio lawmakers fix school funding? State lawmakers are at the drawing board in an attempt to fix Ohio's school funding system. The goal is to try and change how schools are funded by factoring in things like property values and income levels in a push to make it fair for poor districts and disadvantaged students. Ohio lawmakers have acknowledged that coronavirus has made this an even more urgent issue. This developing story is ongoing because lawmakers have to pass a funding fix that works and is effective for each party involved. So keep an eye on story number 7. Story number 8 and the top local headline and developing news story that made it this week. COVID-19 has Governor Mike DeWine on the edge of his seat again. As cases continue to rise and hospital beds fill up, Governor DeWine addressed Ohioans with the sign of fear in his voice by threatening to reinforce some of his shutdown tactics to help ease the spread of COVID-19. But even as cases rise, there are still some key talking points when it comes to COVID-19. The facts are that the majority of the people who catch this disease have a high survival rate, but the fear could be in what scientists still don't know about the long-term effects of this disease. But an effective vaccine seems to be in the works, and scientists are making a lot of progress in the fight. Pfizer reported that they have developed a vaccine with a 90% effective rate, so it will be interesting to see how all of these COVID-19 stories develop in the coming weeks. Let's hope that Governor Mike DeWine, is focusing on this good scientific progress that's been going on, and let's hope that he strays away from more catastrophic economic decisions, meaning shutdowns. So keep an eye on story number 8. Well, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it to the Mediator this week. So don't go anywhere. You're in the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
If you want to check out the stories that almost made it in or did make it in, go to our Twitter feed on our website. Check out everything. All of the sources are there. And go to the website. It's method8inc.com, method8inc.com, where you can buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program.